A review of the CMC Speaker Series by Melanie Montgomery, featuring Deni Bushard and his book, Empty Hands, Open Arms, The Race to Save the Bonobos in the Congo and Make Conservation Go Viral.
My name is Deni Bushard, and my book is Empty Hands, Open Arms, The Race to Save Bonobos in the Congo and Make Conservation Go Viral. One thing I didn't expect from the project was how I would begin to think differently once I learned about bonobos. Bonobos are a matriarchal great ape that shares 98.6.7% of our DNA, that is the only great ape that doesn't kill its own kind. Gorillas do, chimpanzees do, orangutans do, humans certainly do. Bonobos have a culture that is based around sharing. It's based around sharing of resources, around collaboration, around cooperation. I was fascinated by what we could actually learn from studying them and how an organization could use them as a symbol. I wanted to find an organization whose work was teaching us something and making us think differently about how we can protect the environment, how we can protect the rainforests, the wildlife. And when I found Bonobo Conservation Initiative, I was fascinated by the ways in which they were working with local people. They weren't a big organization with a platform and a project that they were going to export to another country. They were going in and meeting with the people and learning how they worked with the rainforest, their belief systems, and they really would design conservation projects that were specific to each region. And these conservation projects became self-replicating. The local people would see the benefits to their communities of doing conservation. They would understand the logic. They'd feel that they were important. They would feel included in the work, and they would begin creating their own future reserves, their own protected areas. So each community began participating and trying to recreate what was happening on the official reserves. I think we see ourselves as being separate from what's happening there, but what I wanted to show in the book is how much the choices of our leaders here and how much our consumer appetites have actually affected that country and the ways in which people are trying to deal with the results of that now. And so my goal was to make a reader live it, to make the reader go through every single aspect. So it's not a history book necessarily, it's not a science book, it's not a conservation book, it's a mixture of all those things. And it also tells the personal stories of the African conservationists who have these incredible stories, who have lived through wars, who have faced losing everything they cared about, and who have fallen in love with nature repeatedly and committed themselves to trying to preserve it. And so these are these incredible human, very heroic stories.
The bonobo great apes are found only deep in the rainforests of the Democratic Republic of the Congo and share over 98% of their DNA with humans. They are peaceful and don't kill their own kind like humans or their cousins the chimpanzees, but their survival is threatened, and the people that live in the bonobo habitat need to be actively engaged and benefit from the conservation of the bonobos. Deni Bushard explains how the Bonobo Conservation Initiative was so successful in actively engaging the locals when others had failed. He saw 5 rules that, if followed, could help all NGOs succeed in helping indigenous people. Rule 1. Poverty does not equal ignorance. Ask the locals for the information you're looking for. Don't assume they won't know. Rule 2. Formalities are not an impediment. Sit down and talk with the chiefs. Talking with someone other than the chiefs could cause hard feelings and lasting resentment. Rule 3. Projects can harm more than they can help. You may think that women who have to hike to the river to collect water and haul it back on their heads would want to have a well in their village. But when asked, the women said they don't mind the work because they are able to get with other women and talk without the men around. By putting in a well, the women would forgo their socialization with women in other villages. Rule 4. Do not assume you can be trusted. The United States backed a ruthless dictator during the 1998 Congo Civil War. The people have not forgotten, with over 5.5 million people dying in the conflict. Now NGOs force their projects on villages that the locals don't want, so trust is hard to come by. Rule 5. Do not humiliate people. You could really humiliate people if you come into their village and announce you want to save the monkeys when they themselves are in need of help. They may have only one working radio in the village, but you want to spend money on the monkeys. Locals know how to talk with locals, so use their knowledge when approaching villages. And lastly, Rule 6. Do not confuse local with national. Deal with the local people and not representatives who are located miles away and are most likely out of touch with the people in the village. According to the Bonobo Conservation Initiative, there are fewer than 10,000 bonobo great apes left in the wild. Bushmeat hunting and habitat loss threaten their survival. The people that live in the bonobo habitat are involved with the bonobo's conservation, but the conservation effort is far from over. For more information on how you could help the bonobo great apes, visit bonobo.org.